Hello everyone and welcome to DCS World and Enigma's Cold War server for another Docs Debrief. If you have not seen these videos before, I talk through a recent interesting engagement that I've had, trying to pick out what I did well, what I could improve on, and what to watch out for next time. So this time, as we can see, we're in the Mig-21. This was right after the A4 mod pack got released on Enigma's Cold War server, so it was absolutely packed on the blue team, so I hopped on red to get some evening out of the odds, I guess, and had a really fun session, including my highest altitude fight ever, so let's jump into it. So here's our first little engagement. I was being vectored into a Warthog and an A4. You see the A4 just merging off my nose. I try and get guns on, make a massive mess of it, and the A4 ends up on my tail. But I do have quite a lot of energy going into this fight, so I just take it vertical. He doesn't have the energy to keep up, so stays low. You can just see him crossing there. Don't know if that's going to actually come out on YouTube compression. I was just keeping an eye on him, tiny little dot, and he then starts to extend. I try and dive in on him, since I'm figuring that by the way he's extending he might have lost sight of me, but then see a big splash off my nose, and I believe that was him going down. There is still the Warthog in the area though. So one enemy down, not sure who got him, it doesn't actually seem to be popping up in the kill feed, but still the Warthog in the area, and I'm having trouble seeing him. I am nervous about Warthogs. See, the Warthog there does splash the Mig-21, I think that was the Mig-21 that got the A4 kill. So now I'm just doing my best to try and track that Warthog, really wanting to stay high, since I know that if I stay high enough here, the Warthog's going to have a real hard time. On the Syria map, the Warthogs do have the AIM-9Ps, so they can really do some damage, but they struggle to get nose up. By the way, I do manage to spot him against the ground here. He's extending away from me. And I just leave my radar off as not to give him an RWR ping. Don't know if he still knows there's another one of us here. So I'm just diving in, using my speed here, trying to catch him up. Warthogs don't make the best AA targets, but if I can get a missile off without him flaring, which I managed to, and there we go, get a good hit. He dumps a load of flares, but it's too late for him, he goes in. So there we go, nice little start to the sortie, one Warthog kill. So this was a little bit later, same sortie. I went up north a bit and we were having a bit of an interesting time. There were loads of A4s taking off from this airfield that we're just next to. And we've got Mig-21s down there that are trying to engage them, but they're having really quite a hard time. They're trying to turn fight a lot of these A4s. I'm trying to stay high, again, just to be on the safe side, and then I can dive in when I get visual contact. Here I dived in a little bit too early, mostly to try and get the sky against the enemy, make them easier to spot. And I do in fact spot him here, right on the tail of this 21. Now here's where I do make a mistake there. I was trying to get guns on, I snapped that nose way too hard. You can see here that I have really lost energy. The A4 is still turning, I though am struggling to regain energy. Trying to get around to try and save this 21. Don't have the angle for a missile. Getting a bit closer, thinking about going in for guns again. And he gets a missile off. I spray a bit too late, and again, pulling just a little bit too hard. Ever so nearly hit the power lines there. I don't quite know how I managed to miss those. And then nearly stall it out against the ground. So really not watching my energy there. But I do somehow manage to recover. This A4 does know I'm here because he is flaring, but he seems pretty focused on his target. He does manage to flare away my next Fox 2 there. So instead I decide to try and lock him up. Do get the radar lock right there with bore sight mode. See him really approaching that friendly target, so I fire Fox 1, and thankfully it does just get him there. The nice thing about using Fox 1s there is it's a lot less likely to get confused and move on to the friendly, so managed to save the friendly. At this point I was pretty much out of weapon, so went back to base rearmed. Took a little bit to get back to the front. At this point we're being pushed back a little bit. So heading over the enemy territory here, looking for tigers. Have been vectored on a few that get shot down before I get there. Here may just be able to make out there is a exhaust plume up ahead, but that's a friendly just above my Pippa there. It is a friendly is engaging a enemy tiger. At this point I lose both of them on radar, trying to catch up with them. Can vaguely make out the enemy against the background. He's moving left to right. He did splash the friendly, that's the shoot of the friendly just above there. I do then get proper visual on him. At this point I really don't think he knows I'm here. I go a little bit high, do a high yo just to try and keep some of my energy, reduce the ground turning radius, end up nicely on his 6. He lights his afterburner, makes perfect target, and splash. Now one thing you might notice there in the kill feed, that was a R3S, which are really quite bad missiles. We do have the R60s available on this, but I messed up when starting. So I've got one R60, two R3Ss, and one R3R. Anyway, so that leaves me with a bit of a disadvantage here. I'm being vectored in by Magic there. So thank you, Cumster, for vectoring me in. But we're being vectored into a Tomcat at this point. Tomcat is that contrailing up above. Very, very high altitude. And he's just been picking off some of our guys. You can see he's just launched a missile there. I'm much, much lower than him, but trying to get a radar solution. I can see him, but really struggling to get radar here. Temporarily get him, temporarily lose it. I'm just trying to re-establish contact at this point. Can see a friendly plane there flaring and going evasive. I forget what type of friendly plane this was, but I do get the friendly on radar. Unfortunately, Tomcat temporarily stops contrailing, so I lose sight of him again. Just trying to follow him on the radar more than anything else. Know that I'm co-altitude, then realise that this new contrailing target here, this is the F-14. So I do get him locked up here, but I'm well out of missile range. Now, I do try an intercept, but he just ends up leading us in one very, very long drag race here. He's just heading away from me from here on. I follow him in. There is a Tiger II that tries to intercept, but he doesn't get there in time. After a very long chase, I kind of start to lose patience. We're up at 14 kilometers now, nearing enemy airbase. I'm pretty much bingo on fuel. I fire a Fox 2, mostly just to see if I can force him to turn. Not really intending much to come of it. See him flaring, see him begin to turn, so okay, that worked. And then somehow the missile hit him. and this again was a R3S. Really just turns out that at 14 kilometers or 40,000 feet, those R3Ss, which are equivalent to AIM-9Bs, really move. Unfortunately, I couldn't recover the TAC view of this, it bugged out, so I couldn't get quite what the speed was that missile did, but that was a hell of a range, longest range hit I've ever done, definitely the highest altitude. So yeah, at this point I was feeling pretty happy. Managed just about to limp it back. I was absolutely on fumes getting back, but got back. Now I wish this entire set had a happy ending. We are one off of the ace, but all things have to come to an end, and this time this was just me getting rather tired here. This is quite late at night. Head out again just to see if I can get the ace. Merge with this F5, but only visually see him when he barely fails to get guns on me there. And here I fall into the exact same issue that I did before, that I decide, oh, I know, I'll just turn fight and just try and whip my nose around. As my fuel tank dropping away there as well, I did release that a little bit too late. But we can see here my angle of attack indicator is very unhappy. I'm right redlining the actual dial there, if you could see. And so I've just bled off all of my speed with that manoeuvre. He continues to dive down, and again, this would be a great time if I decided to try and disengage. But instead, going in a little hungry for the ace, decide to try and drop in. He has completely reversed the energy state here. He is in a much better state than me. I am really struggling. Again, I had the opportunity there to try and disengage, but I'm decide instead to try taking it vertical. I know I've got better thrust to weight than him, so I was hoping to extend the fight a little bit, but even with flaring there, his missile hits me. I'm so slow, I make a perfect AIM-9 target, and so that's me down at this point. I do continue the dive, vaguely thinking I might be able to get a cheeky shot off on him if he passes my nose, but no such luck. I've just lost so much energy, I have no choice but to bail at that point. So yeah, it was quite an interesting little sortie. Very good GCIing by Kunster there, really did help us, keep us all informed about what was going on. I just need to get a little bit more cautious when it comes to dealing with low energy states, and the Mig-21's nose does not really like to be whipped around. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please consider leaving a like and or subscribe, and I hope to catch you in the next video. Till then, remember to be kind to yourselves and everyone else. Cheers!